Getting everything square and perpendicular here can be a challenge. You want to make sure that those legs are vertical, they're perpendicular to the floor and perpendicular to the side boards. You also want to take diagonal measurements across the top to make sure that that top rectangle is truly square and perpendicular. In this case, mine wasn't turning out to be perpendicular and square, and so I put a tie-down strap across two diagonal legs to pull them together a little bit to get this more perpendicular and square. I ensure this by taking diagonal measurements from corner to corner multiple times to make sure that they are the same distance. Once I know that the legs and the top are all perpendicular and square, I will put the screws in from the sideboards to the legs and from the sideboards to the inboards. Now I'm going to measure and install two 2x6 cross braces across the top to support the top. After I got the cross braces in, I was going to put the 3/4 inch plywood top on, but I was afraid that it might knock the bench out of square and perpendicular again. So I temporarily screwed on a 2x4 diagonal from one end to the other to make sure that the bench stayed perpendicular and square while I lifted the top onto the bench. After the first piece of 3/4 inch plywood was laid on the bench top, I made sure that it was square all the way around the edges and then installed a couple of screws to hold it in place while I put the second piece of 3/4 inch plywood on top of it. I slid the second piece of 3/4 inch plywood on top of the first and squared it up. And then I used 3.5 inch screws to screw all the way through both pieces of plywood into the frame. Next, I wanted to test fit the white hardboard on top of the plywood to see what it was going to look like. Following the test fit, I wanted to install the 1x2 oak edging all the way around the tabletop to dress it up a little bit on the ends and also to use a little bit more of a harder wood than the pine. Once the edging was installed all the way around, I used a hand router to do a round over all the way around to give it a smoother edge. I also installed two 2x4 cross braces to support the shelf as well. I made the shelf also out of 3/4 inch plywood. And the diagram for cutting that is in the instructions in the link provided below as well. I wanted to install that shelf in one piece, but it was going to be hard to get it wedged in. So I cut it into 2 pieces and screwed it down. My intention with this bench is to use it for an assembly bench, and then I can also cover it whenever I'm using paints or any kind of epoxies on it. I don't intend to do any hammering or any heavy work on this bench. It's mainly for assembly of large items that I built. The white surface helps with finding small pieces that you might lose, but you can also use dry erase markers to make notations on the top, or even pencils, and they will wipe off. One other advantage of using the whiteboard is that it is about $19 a sheet versus 3/4 inch plywood, which could be $30, $40 a sheet. So when the white surface gets scratched up and damaged enough, then I can just unscrew it and replace it with a new surface.